Coming up on OTH, Ray and I nerd out a bit about Ezreal, talk about how it's felt to play on patch 11.3, and preview some patch 11.4 changes. Of course, we also cover our favorite matches of LCS Week 2 and take a look at what's to come in Week 3. We hope you all enjoy Episode 3 of On the Hunt. Welcome everybody to Episode 3 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I'm your co-host Chris, aka the hot dog killer, because every time I go to Costco, dude, I have to get a hot dog combo.
You know, it's hard to argue with that.
Every time, dude, without fail. And I put everything on it too, except relish, because relish is gross. And joining me on every episode, as always, is our other co-host, Raymund.
Hello, loyal listeners. How's everyone doing?
Yes, dude. I think we got a good 2, maybe 3 subscribers on Spotify now.
Ooh.
We're looking up.
All right, man. We're basically famous now.
Yeah, that's like a 200% ROI on our growth.
Yeah, year over year for sure.
I think I could safely say that we're the fastest growing podcast in the League of Legends space at the moment.
You know, I'm not going to look at any of the numbers on that, and I'll just take your word for it.
Yeah, definitely not that Oracle's Elixir guy. Just kidding. He's a cool guy, though. What's up, man? What you been up to?
You know, I've been up to more of the same, really. Just working away during the week. Got some time for a few games in this last couple days. Had the day off today. That was nice for President's Day, so I fit in some games.
Nice, dude. That's what I like to hear. I actually didn't get to play that much this week. I don't even know why. Like, when I think about it, I feel like I blanked out for like last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I just don't know what I did the last 4 days, to be honest. Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Dude, I stayed away from Path of Exile this week, so I had some more time. That made it easier.
Oh, fucking! I love when you talk dirty to me, dude. All right, well, you said you got some games in, man. How they been going?
You know, they've been good. Let's see. I'm thinking. I just haven't grinded too much at all or anything like that. But I got in some good Earth games. And I'm like dominating Earth this rotation, dude. I think I've lost like maybe 2 of like 12 games. So I'm just a high tier Earth player, definitely. But got in a few games today. Got to play some Duskblade Ezreal. Another game of like Kraken Slayer Senna. And then I played it. I got filled into jungle in one of our games, so I popped off on Udyr, which was, the easiest thing in my life to just hard carry on that champion.
You're just abusing everything good on the patch, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Gotta do it while I can,
Tell me a little bit more about that Ezreal, dude. I tried it myself, the dark technology Ezreal.
Yeah?
Go with the Essence Reaver into the Duskblade, and then if after that you can go right into the Hydra.
Yeah.
Or maybe some other on-hit item. How's it feel to you? I think I actually really liked it. I think that the Essence Reaver feels really strong. I played it like a couple times with a Yuumi. I'm not that great with playing with Yuumi, but I think that the build it feels pretty good. I wonder sometimes, because I really liked the one that gives you HP back on hit.
The Sunder?
Yeah, I really liked Sunder is the problem, but the damage from the Essence Reaver at the power spikes of getting Reaver and then getting Dirk into Duskblade, it feels really good, and you get a decent amount of CDR from both of those items as well.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think I liked it too. Definitely, I think every time I've tried it, and most of the times like I've seen people play it, like I think I watched Tactical play it on stream, and I was just like mind blown at like how much damage he was doing, like trying to hard 1v9 in his base. But it definitely seems strong. I think I'm like more surprised at like, the power of like the quick Sheen item on Ezreal, no longer are you spending like 3,800 gold to buy Trinity Force or detouring for a mana immune that you still have to stack or anything. It's just like straight up buy Sheen, get AD and lethality on it, and like at 4k gold you're pretty strong. So yeah, it seemed good. I played it kind of blew today. I played it twice and got both times matched up against people who decided they wanted to play Senna and Seraphine bot lane. So we just basically, my supporter and I were not able to abuse them, and we got hard outscaled very fast. But it was still interesting. I tried to do some funky stuff. I went like the first game I went against them, because like you have to build executioners against like that much healing. And then I tried to go, so I tried, instead of going Duskblade second, I went straight Essence Reaver into Serpent's Fang. It didn't seem that bad, but we were just getting blasted too hard for it to matter. So
Yeah, I guess now that I think about it, the build components for both Essence Reaver and Dustblade are really cheap, huh?
yeah,
Like getting Warhammer and just Sheen, and then Warhammer again and Dustblade is just like 10 longswords in this whole build.
yeah,
So I
it's
guess
really
it's really
nice.
cool that like you can recall at any time, and you'll probably get a good component in there.
Yeah, having Sheen at 700 also is like such a nice thing. Just generally, like I feel like you can get just the Sheen spike on your first back, like almost always guaranteed.
That's awesome, dude. Hey, just to nerd out for a second, do you have like an all-time favorite Ezreal build from like throughout the years? I'll go first if it like helps you.
Yeah, you go ahead. You go.
I don't know what patch this is, but I want to say my favorite Ezreal build is when you would build like Ludens, third or fourth item. So it would be like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Trinity Force, Man Immune, or Iceborne Gauntlet, either one. And then you would build Ludens or Blade of the Rune King, and you would just have like the strongest burst on your W and ulti. Wait, and your E, of course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was like a couple seasons ago. I feel like that was maybe like season 9 after they had changed the mage items, right? And then you had lots of chapters, so it was just a shit ton of mana for your mana immune too.
Yeah, I think that was 2019, around then.
I
I think that's my all-time favorite Ezreal build.
Okay, did you like that more than, because I think I remember that, and I remember that you went to Ludens after they changed it so that you couldn't just go double tier items, where you would go like Manamune first, and then your Sheen item, and then once you got Manamune stacked, you would buy another tier so that you could build Seraphs. Because that was what I
Oh,
remember doing
dude.
just before that patch, where you'd go Ludens, and I like the Ludens build too, but that was whack.
All right, dude. Is that yours?
No, I think I have to. Let me think. I guess that was around the same time. I liked, and I was actually trying this today with the Essence Reaver build. Was when you would go lethal tempo on Ezreal when people were going like Manamune, Triforce, and like Bork right away. I think it was the same time, like where you could go either one kind of, and you'd go lethal tempo, and you would just like wild out on people, like all inning them in the mid game with tempo, and they wouldn't be able to like keep up with your DPS with the Manamune procs. That was fun.
Dang, I actually really like taking Conqueror on him right now. It feels nice to just like whale people down.
Yeah, I think it's good. I've only just tried the tempo build today, and I'm not convinced yet. Because it's really good. It's really good in like early all-ins. Like that's when I think tempo is like catches people off guard when they just you attack so much usually do, and you can win extended trades.
Right, and you get the five stacks on your passive as well.
Yeah, yeah. You just nobody expects Ezreal to be attacking that much. But yeah, I still remember actually. You know what? I think probably my favorite Ezreal moment is when. Do you remember like season 3 All Stars when double? That was like right when the like blue build first came out with Iceborne and like
Spirit of the Elder
Elder
Lizard.
Lizard. Yeah. And Doublelift popped out with a pentakill against the EU All Star team. That was some old school shit, dude. I like that.
Dang, dude, that was so long ago. I'm surprised I knew the name of that item just like right off the top. Dang, and I actually really miss Iceborne Gauntlet now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think honestly, I've always been one of the people. I feel like whenever I play Ezreal, I would go complete opposite whatever the meta was. If the meta was to build Triforce, I was like, you know what, this is a good game for Iceborne because of I'd make up like, oh, they have a lot of AD, And then when people were going at Iceborne, I was always like, you know what, this is really a Triforce game. Like, we need the damage here, guys. Like, I'm not a pussy. Like,
That's funny. Okay, dude. Well, now that we've got some games in on this patch, how does the patch 11.3 feel for you?
it seems okay. I don't know. I still don't want to say I played too much to know the ins and outs, but I feel like I've seen a lot of Seraphine that I've not wanted to see as much of. Yeah, I don't know. My bot lanes have been boring. I've liked watching it competitive with a lot of the Rels showing up and all that, but I have not had the same enjoyment out of my normals and solo queue bot lanes.
Okay, that makes sense. I would hate to play against some Seraphines right now. I feel like that champion is really strong for like most points of the game.
Yeah.
As for me, I think that I'm really liking this patch so far. I feel like every role can be enjoyable to play, and every role has like a couple of champions that are pretty good, whether you want to play a certain play style or not. So top lane, I feel like there's some good tanky champions and good bruiser champions. Same for mid lane. I think there's really good roaming champions, really good control mages as well. Junglers, I feel like there's just a lot of champions that every jungler knows. Like, I feel like every jungler knows how to play Hecarim and stuff like that. and there's just good champions right now for junglers to play, as well as the EXP being favorable right now. And then same thing for AD. Everybody likes to play Kai'Sa, so I feel like as long as Kai'Sa is playable, everybody will like that.
Yeah, that's true. I can get behind that. I do like a lot of the variety, it seems like, out of most of the roles.
So yeah, I've really been liking 11.3. I don't think there's anything too crazy that I think that's like a must ban every time. Just whatever you don't want to play against that game is, feels pretty viable. I've been banning out Viego a lot because I have seen some mid Viegos absolutely pop off, and I just don't want my mid laner to like play against that for the first time or something.
Yeah,
and just get stomped on.
Dude, as time has gone out, as you've seen him somewhere, how do you feel about Viego still? Because to me, it seems like I've had a lot of games. My buddy who was inting on him in the first week has not played him as much anymore. So it seems like now I'm only playing against him. And it seems like every game where the Viego gets strong, it always seems to me that we just did something stupid and he got strong and he shouldn't actually be that bad. But then I don't notice, I guess, the games where he isn't strong. So maybe I'm just either I'm getting big selection bias on only remembering the ones where we got ass blasted, or he's only ass blasting.
No, yeah, because I think I said last week I was starting to play a little bit of support. So when I was playing support, there was always like a Viego on the other mid team, and I feel like he was ass blasting my team as well. I think it's like one is just like I guess the damage doesn't seem like so straightforward because isn't it something like you cast a skill and then your next auto hits them twice for like their current or max HP because he has like the Blade of the Ruined King passive on his passive.
Yeah.
So he just has like a lot of hidden damage that isn't readily apparent the first couple of times you play against him.
Yeah.
And then also, I didn't know this when we had talked about this in our first episode, but I think the best part about him is that he has like an invincibility frame on his ulti at the start of the cast.
Yeah,
and that is actually super annoying to deal with if you like use it properly.
I definitely agree with that. I think honestly, I feel like that needs to go. I don't know how, like, either they need to tone down like how long it lasts, or like you can be vulnerable for some of it and then like the actual possession like I don't know. It seems like it should be half and half, where you're still like locked in place to possess, and then you go invulnerable like as you transform. I don't know. It just is so annoying to see him like go under tower and then invuln, except for tower shots. I don't know. It is that definitely I feel like is too strong for him.
Yeah, I think I really noticed it when one game I was playing Alistar and the Viego was fed, and so I wanted to like headbutt him like out of the fight every time, but then he kept ulting my headbutt, so it would just go like he would go right past me.
Oof, yeah.
And he did that to me at least like 3 times that game, and I felt pretty useless that game because I kept trying to do that, but he kept doing that to me as well. So I felt a little goofy.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how he pops out. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there are any changes slated for him, but I think I'd hope to see some soon.
Yeah, I would say that he's pretty strong right now, and to put some games into him if you're interested in playing him middle. I'm not sure about top. I haven't seen any top Viegos. He might be a little squishy for that though, but mid or jungle, I think he's worth playing right now. Partly because maybe not everyone knows what he does, and then you can kind of snowball pretty hard with all of the damage that he does. I just hope that you know what every champion does, so that if you possess somebody, you know what to do, or to just like ulti out of it right away. Okay, well, so there's this guy named Mark Yetter on Twitter. Let's see what he does actually.
He's the Summoner's Rift gameplay design director.
You know that off the top of your head?
Yeah, I like his Twitter bio.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what he is, and sometimes he posts these things about the next upcoming patch. Before we look at that, I wanted to ask you, is there anything that like you want to see changed in the next patch?
I think honestly, maybe it's recency bias. I think I want to see Viego could probably use like just numbers tuning. I feel like he maybe like it because I think it's too early to tell if people don't know how to play against him, but it seems like he just does too much consistent damage that I feel like they could maybe tone some of that down. But I think that we could see some reduction in like the support, like Seraphine or like other like Moonstone abusers. Like that would be nice to go down. And then maybe we need to get rid of Udyr. That Udyr and Olaf can maybe go out of the meta for a little bit.
I think for me, I would maybe like to see some Kai'Sa nerfs. I feel like she's pretty much picked her ban 100% of the time when I play solo queue. I I do want to also see maybe a nerf on Kraken Slayer, only because it's like it seems to be the go-to for a lot of the AD carries right now. So if they're all making it, then I'm thinking that there's not a lot of other good choices, such as Shield Bow or even Gale Force sometimes. Or maybe I'm just tripping and it's fine the way it is. Yeah, and then I think I would like to see maybe some more nerfs to something about Udyr. I don't know what in particular, like if it's like the numbers on his abilities, or maybe a change to all of the tank items he builds, like Chem Tank or something. Because that guy is just going wild.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if I know exactly what I'd want to see out of that, but yeah, something needs to happen to that champ, I think.
Yeah, although I don't think he's unbeatable, because I feel like a lot of people are trying to play Udyr, and maybe they're not all seasoned Udyr players or something for that kind of play style, or being able to be in melee range of people and like get out with like just moving and no dashes or anything like that. So he's not unbeatable. It's just like, but sometimes if he gets going, like just the raw movement speed and shielding he can do on his own, it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
And then I think lastly for me, I think I want to see a nerf to Seraphine's ulti. I recently got hit by a Seraphine ulti from my tier 1 turret to the tier 2 turret. It was super long, and I was actually so sad about that. So I'm actually kind of sad about like how far the Seraphine ulti can go when you push it through so many people, or even just like one or two people. I feel like the range gets extended so long.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I wonder. I guess I think that would be a pretty good nerf if they just like either like reduce the range just altogether, or maybe made it so it can only reset like once through any given champ. I don't know, that still might be too far. Maybe like, but I don't know. But like I'm thinking back to Release of Felios, and they did kind of the same thing where they reduced the range on his ulti. And I feel like at the time it seemed like, oh come on, this is kind of troll. Like that's all you're gonna do is reduce the range, you know. But it turns out, like I don't know, even now as sometimes a Felios player, it's definitely noticeable that you would prefer to have a longer range on that ability than you get nowadays.
Right. I'm just thinking that like I know Seraphine is annoying, but I also feel like if you lost lane as a Seraphine, as long as you hit like a couple good ultis that game, you might still win it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just where my mindset is with wanting that to be changed. I'm also kind of biased because like for example, I'm sure that a lot of people want Camille to be nerfed, but Camille is so fun, dude, and so I really like playing that champion, and I don't want her to be touched.
Yeah, I think I'm on the other end where when you said Kai'Sa to get nerfed, I'm like, oh come on, dude, Kai'Sa's so much fun. But yeah, she's a bit of a staple now. She could maybe let someone else have the light.
All right, dude. Well, now that we talked about a little bit what we want to see, let's take a peek at the 11.4 preview provided by Mark Yetter over on twitter.com. So a couple big changes that are going to come in are, I believe there's going to be a lot of jungle changes. Maybe we can take a peek at that in a bit. And there's going to be a nerf to Moonstone Renewer. A couple items are going to get buffed next patch. That includes Everfrost, Cosmic Drive, Rage Blade, Chempunk Chainsword, Mortal Reminder, and Morello Nomicon. Do any of those interest you?
I think I like, just to hit them quick, I think I like the changes on the healing reduction items just to make them more like just feel a little nicer when you actually do have to buy them and complete them, since it's not always totally telling just to get to the 60% grievous wounds mark or anything. Like that doesn't feel like a huge power spike, so it'll be nice to get a little bit more stats to just feel good about completing those items if you have to get early.
Okay. I'm actually really interested in the Everfrost change because I think that item is super fun. Well, especially in ARAM. Maybe it's a little troll to build in like a real game. But I think that there's some champions that combo really hard with Everfrost. Maybe like Rakan or sometimes even Zoe.
Oh yeah.
And even Kassadin. Although like a lot of those champions don't really need it.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of the times that item built, I guess, exclusively almost on like Silas and Kassadin. Those are like the two that I've seen. It does seem like it has its benefits, or its situational, but it definitely hasn't like filled the void that a lot of champs used GLP for.
Yeah, I think the way that champs were taking like phase rush and then building GLP it felt really strong.
Yeah.
For like the last year, and in a crazy way, it's like wow. Because people only started doing that kind of towards the end, where those two have been out for like a really long time. I don't want to talk about the numbers too much because maybe it could change. So let's just get right into the nerfs and buffs for champions coming out. So it looks like there are going to be some champion nerfs for a couple of champions.
A lot of changes for Samira. I think let's hit the others real quick, and then maybe we come back to her because that's a lot.
Okay, sure. And then look for Kaisa. It looks like her Q damage is going to get hit for both the regular and the evolved form for single target, as well as
It's just damage per missile down, so it changes your max isolation and single target. Yeah.
okay, yeah, that's a better explanation. Yeah. And then looks like Skarner is going to take some nerfs as well. I actually do feel like Skarner is pretty fun to play right now, and you can just get away with just running at people, and you can take Predator if you want, or you can take Phase Rush. It's pretty funny.
He's kind of the same deal as Udyr. I'm surprised we don't see more of him like in LCS, honestly.
Yeah, and then looks like there's going to be a healing reduction on Renekton's Q for both the regular and empowered version, and Camille is going to get hit this patch, but it's just a nerf to her W cooldown. No changes to her Q at this time. So you said you wanted to talk more about what's going to happen to Samira?
Yeah, I mean, this feels like a really big hit to her, honestly. Taking off the change list as Mark Yetter has it now is removing her ability to dash to allies with her E, as well as reducing the speed on it. And I think that's just like taking away E dashes or like dash targets, with allies means that she really has a lot less options in fights to go like in and out with that reset on takedowns. So it'll be like just you can really only go in and then in unless you're in a bunch of minions like Yasuo all-ins or something like that. And then the W duration is going down by a quarter of a second. They're changing her Q damage scaling, so it goes up with levels or with levels in the ability. And then her passive melee bonus ratio is going into a scaling form, so she'll have less early but more like later in the game. And then her R cooldown is going from 3 seconds to 8 seconds, which is I think a good change on that front. I think as Samira players, it feels not as fun. Like getting multiple ultis is always like super highlight reel kind of stuff. But as I think that's good for like ADC brains to make them not as brain dead. You have to like sit for a second and think about when you need to pop your ulti.
Okay, yeah. That's actually a super big deal if they were really going to take away her dash to allies. And I do feel like when you play Samira, it does feel kind of weird that there's essentially no cooldown on her ulti.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because I think when you're pub stopping as Samira, it definitely is the best thing to just you go in, you ulti, you kill someone, you dash onto somebody else, and Q again, and then ulti or whatever, and you're just like, oh, I am God. But it always feels like that doesn't change you winning the fight most of the time. I would think if you actually break it down, like if you're able to get 2 ultis off, then you probably already won. And it's like in that way, it'll make it so that the fights where you were close, where you could get like 3-second like cooldown ultis in reality, it'll make those a little closer. Make the Samira player have to not just continue to go all in forever. So I guess I think that's actually a good change. Along with I kind of like the changes they're doing to her bonus damage scaling, because if they just nerf that like throughout the whole game, I feel like it would really take away like why even go into melee range on that champ.
Right. I'm actually pretty sad that they want to change so many things at once in one patch. I feel like the ulti change is already kind of a big deal of more or less restricting you to one ulti unless it's like a really long fight. But then having to, well, not having to, but then also changing her scaling, the scaling on her damage for her Q and her melee bonus damage, and making it worse in the early game. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot to get used to, but honestly, I think overall it's going to be good changes. We'll just have to see about the E dashes, in my opinion. I think that's scary as a Samira player to not be able to just have that like kind of freedom.
Yeah, and that's such a shame because I feel like at that point they're changing the champion.
Yeah.
Like that's not Samira anymore.
Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of like how the Silas changes. Do you remember the Silas changes? They've kind of reworked that champ a couple times with all his passive combos.
Yeah, it's so sad. Like to see him like have a shield and then it's only a magic shield, and then now there's just no shield.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
And the way his passive worked, like the passive like cleave, that used to be like so much better, I feel like, than it is now.
I like that it builds up the stacks, kind of like Riven passive. But I kind of wish it was the way that it was on release.
Yeah.
And then for champion buffs, there's actually quite a bit.
A lot of little changes. I'm not sure. Did any of these like strike out at you as something like big? It just seems like they're tweaking a bunch of champs that they want to kind of push back into the people's the people's minds.
Yeah, that's true. It is like just a bunch of small number tweaks for 11 champions. So that's going to be Caitlyn, Fiora, Soraka buff. I know you're looking at that. Varus, Braum, Jinx, Veigar, Talon, Lee Sin, Tryndamere, and Amumu. Do any of those interest you?
I feel like I somehow I feel like we've already talked about this on the show. I like the Soraka buffs and I like the Jinx buffs, but I'm a kind of amazed that they're both getting more buffs. Like the Soraka seems like she's in a good spot or is like, situationally strong, and they just keep buffing her. And then Jinx just got a bunch of changes, I feel like, that are kind of big on the last patch with her rocket scaling and everything with attack speed. And I'd be surprised that those aren't like more impactful than we'd see out of just like a 1 week of play. So to see buffs on that again, it's like interesting, I guess.
Okay, I can get with that. When I look at this list, I'm actually kind of sad about the Talon buffs because I hate playing against Talons, and I also just don't have the mindset of like a Talon player. So it looks like they're gonna buff his W cooldown and the damage on the way out. So I'm actually pretty upset about that. But maybe there's some Talon players out there who would really like that.
Yeah, gosh, the outgoing bonus AD actually is outgoing damage on that ability is not something I want to be reminded of. Like back when before his rework, when it was just a instant back and forth, that was so obnoxious.
Okay, now let's get moving on to our picks of the week. Do you want to get started with this, or you want me to go first?
You go ahead. You go ahead. I'll think about it a little bit here.
All right, man. So my pick of the week this week is not going to be a champion like last time, the last two times. My pick of the week is going to be lolesports.com for watching the LCS and that sort of thing. And here's the reason. I've always known that when you watch on the LOL Esports website that they show you stats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always thought that it was the same stuff that you see like visually on the screen. So
Oh
stuff
yeah, no.
just like KD and items and that sort of thing. But it actually pretty much shows you a lot of the stuff that you would see as if you were really spectating the game in your own client. So you can toggle on and off the gold, and you can see a lot of like comparisons between two people and that sort of thing. So let's say if you're watching a match, there's 10 champions. If you want to see exactly what Nar's gold is, you can click on him and you can see that. And so there's actually a lot of interactivity if you watch on the LOL Esports website for not just the live matches, but also the VODs, which is super cool. And so the problem is I've been watching a lot of co-streams lately, but I think if you ever want to watch a VOD or something, like you may as well watch it on through the LOL Esports way, because that's pretty cool that you can see all of the stuff like that. And I guess you get your watch rewards too if you like to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna make sure that we shouted out the watch rewards. Gotta get those orbs, the blue essence. The little icons they give you. That's all important. Gotta keep that up. Trying to build out my collection.
For sure, dude. How about you? Do you have a pick of the week ready?
Man, I think the only thing that I can say, I don't think I have a pick in game. So now that you've relinquished me from the chains of having to pick a champion by talking about the LoL Esports VOD player, I'm gonna just say, like my pick of the week this week is all the faithful TSM fans who got to see a fatty 3-0 after we were pretty down in the dumps after week 1 and the lock-in. But we'll get more into that as we cover the games. But just solidarity, brothers. Waiting for that one. Suffering from the haters.
Yeah, well, even in this week, I was still pretty worried about after the Friday game.
That's true.
But you're right. We'll get more into that later.
That's true. But the light was shown to us. Yeah. All right.
Okay. And what about content, dude? Did you consume any League of Legends content this week?
Man, I got a little bit in. I watched or listened to Hotline League last Monday with Meteos was the guest on it. Actually, that was a pretty good episode. I feel like it's fun to listen to Meteos just chit chat about the game in a casual setting. Usually, it's one of my draws to his co-stream as well. But they had some good calls on that, talking just about I think they had some talk about like TSM faltering, and then also like what just people's thoughts on like having college players like Maryville players on Golden Guardians and stuff in the LCS now. And I thought they were interesting conversations just to kind of dive into on those ones. So that was a good episode for me. What about you? Any highlights from some other shows around the block?
No, that's the problem actually. I feel like I watched a good amount of stuff this week, but I don't remember any of it. So it must not have been special, dude. So
You must have just blanked out like the other stuff you're saying.
yeah, I'm serious, dude. I don't know what happened to last week. Maybe I was just down in the dumps because I was single for Valentine's Day. Who knows, dude?
Dude, I thought we were not talking about that one, man.
Oh, my bad, my bad. But yeah, so I listened to the dive, and I believe the face check episode. I did end up watching TSM Legends, which covered like week 1 of the LCS.
Yeah, I caught that too. Actually,
Kind of sad, kind of depressing.
Yeah, a little bit.
I actually do like to watch that kind of behind the scenes team content. I used to watch the TL one as well when they were dominating in like 2018, 2019.
Yeah. I used to watch the heist in season 1. That was a good. I liked the heist.
Yeah, I feel like the heist is really like the videos are really well made.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never really watched a lot of the other teams out of those. I would say out of those 3, I don't think I've seen any content for like anybody else. Not even like G2 or anything.
G2 always does their mic check at the end of the week, and I always watch the G2 mic check actually because they're a bunch of jokesters. I'm in support of that one.
That's funny. And then also, actually today I was watching the Crackdown live on Twitch, despite my huge ranting about it last week. Because I saw that Perks was going to be on there. I kind of zoned out for a lot of it because I was distracted. So I don't really, but I also don't feel like anything crazy was said. It was mostly just about like his time back in Europe and then talking a little bit about Fudge. It's all I really remember.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good episode overall. All right, man. You ready to jump into some LCS week 2?
Yeah, dude. Let's get into it. I liked this week. This was a hype week.
Yeah, actually, there were some banger games this week. I actually want to start off first with some of the draft picks that have been going on this week. So first of all, let's take a look at some of the ban stats, courtesy of gamesoflegend.gg, GOL. So looking over at LCS Spring 2021 for patch 11.3, I guess we'll just cover like top 5 bans.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe even top 10. So let's see, we've got Udyr at 14 bans, 14 out of 15 possible games. So that's pretty crazy.
Who would have thought?
And furthermore on that subject, it turns out that all of 14 of those bans were on red side. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, just the premier power pick, Udyr, man. Nobody had that on their COVID pandemic bingo cards, I don't think.
No, dude, he really took over the world. And to follow Udyr up, we've got Olaf at 12 bans. So just another jungle menace, I suppose. And then we've got Renekton, Camille, and Rel at 9 bans, as well as Senna at 8 bans, followed by Seraphine, Hecarim, Twisted Fate, and Syndra at 6 bans. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on any of those kind of most bans of this week?
Nah, it seems like about what I'd expect. You see a lot of people going for these strong, blind pickable top laners that they want to get out, and the same goes for junglers. I think you've got a few that are all useful, but not like there's a big contest or like here's pick this guy, you pick a counter to that guy. It's just like, oh yeah, you go ahead. You want Udyr Olaf? No thanks. And then it's like, all right, well we'll just pick Graves or Lilia or Talia. Go ahead and go at it. Same with like Renekton Camille. Like we're seeing a lot more of people like trying to hard counter like the Renekton picks. So they're leaving it out. It seems like a little bit more with like the Quinn picks and everything, but I don't know. It seems pretty as expected.
Okay, and then now that the bans are out of the way, we can also talk about what ended up getting most picked this weekend. So I guess I'll just start with the top lane. For the top 3, we've got Gangplank, Gnar, and Gragas. I guess all those champions start with G, huh? That's crazy.
True.
And they all have 5 picks each. Do you want to talk about that first? I think Gragas is super good on this patch, and he's really good tank, always reliable with E-Flash ulti, and I think GP is always pretty solid as well. I'm pretty sure he has some really good matchups, both melee and range, and you can hit really hard in the middle game, and his ulti is really good, of course.
Yeah, I think as people have gotten more and more, I feel like a lot more people have talked about how GP is like this top lane god kind of, where you get away with it. It's just any team is going to want it, so I get where you're coming from with that. And Gragas, yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't get away with being a mainstay in like the jungle or support or top for like 4 seasons without being, just a good champion. So I'm not too surprised to see him come back even as a tank nowadays.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I'm really liking this current top lane meta. I don't really like to see Ornn, to be honest, and I don't like people to like lose on Ornn too. So I'm pretty glad that he's not a big mainstay right now. Like I would just hate to see like Ornn Cho'Gath Shen every game or something like that,
Yeah, I agree. I think that yeah, it's no fun when people are just blinding those things. But I do like, yeah, I like that we're seeing these guys that are like some bruisers, some, some at least like scrappy tank plays. Ornn is like, oh, please don't fight me. I just want to get some minions, maybe, please, and then I'll get to level 14, and then I'll give my carry his upgraded items, and then I'm just here to soak. I'll throw my horn out and get some ultis. But yeah, not something like Gragas, something like Redacted. These guys are fucking going in. They've got their friend Udyr in the jungle. They've got to follow him up somehow, man. Otherwise, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and I think for the most part, a lot of those are kind of skill matchups. Maybe a little less for Gragas, but Gnar and GP matchups are more so pretty skill based, I would think. So I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. It's always fun to see the players like someday actually get to show off like why they're top tier top laners more than just farming and setting up dives.
For sure. And then moving on to jungle, we've got Graves at 9 picks, Lilia at 7 picks, and then Talia at 4 picks. Any thoughts on that? I would say that I think Graves is just the most picked because since there's so much Udyr and Olaf bans, and then people just kind of default to Graves and Lilia afterwards.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'm surprised to see Graves still have such a high priority. Like, I feel like he's kind of just people's default. I'm expecting him to fall a little more out of meta because I think he's just not as strong nowadays. I think his items got changed a little bit, not having great lethality options, and just like with the Gale Force nerfs and everything, I think that we'll see some other champs kind of sneak in here as people think like maybe I shouldn't just default to Graves.
Right, I'm thinking that too. I would like to see some more variety. It just sucks that like with that scuttle crab change where it has the shield unless you like CC it.
Yeah, Graves is just so unbelievably easy to just kill the thing.
It really cuts the like number of playable champions for the jungle.
Yeah, I do like seeing Lilia and Talia though. I'll say that I like seeing Lilia and Talia played.
Yeah, I think I really like watching Lilia as well. I'm kind of sad about Talia. I don't know why. I just don't like when that champion is in meta for the jungle at least.
Yeah, I think I like her jungle more than I liked her in mid though. Like she has to do a little bit more to like scrap and everything out of the jungle than she did just push a wave and roam to side.
That's true. Moving over to middle, it's kind of boring actually. We've got Azir at 6 picks, and then Orianna and Zoe at 4 picks. So I guess in a way there's like a lot of variety for mid lane because these top 3 are really low pick rate, like 4 out of 15 games, and 4 of them were Orianna.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, nothing too special here. I guess a lot of people are kind of relying on these kind of safe picks and not so much going for the global picks like Galio and TF like they were in the lock-in tournament. You have any thoughts on that?
Not really. I feel like mid's kind of not been a focus for too many teams. Like we're a lot more interested in the top lane counter picks or the support counter picks or getting this or that AD or junglers. So I honestly, it seems like mid's just kind of fallen back to one of those metas where they're just like, oh yeah, let's pick something. I don't know. This is probably good. Nobody's gonna like counter me mid. Just like we'll pick this first phase and go on with our lives and focus on something else.
Okay, and then moving on to the bottom lane, we've got for AD carries, Kai'Sa 11 picks, Senna 4 picks, and then Ezreal and Samira tied at 3 picks. I think it's pretty crazy that a lot of teams just kind of let Kai'Sa through right now because I feel like she's one of the strongest AD carries with decent matchups, and as well, like just every like pro player should just want to play Kai'Sa every game because she can be really strong from like 5 to 10 minutes, and then also really strong from like 15 to 20 minutes, and then also really strong from like 25 to 30. So
yeah, that's true.
I feel like everyone should be comfortable playing Kai'Sa. And then pretty crazy to see that like even though Senna had a lot of bans, she still is like the second most picked AD carry, or at least bottom laner. And I guess we'll get into that more later. But it seems like Senna is really strong on this patch as well.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think kind of going into the same thing with mid laners just wanting to pick, something that's safe and they can get away with. We're seeing a lot more of the Senna Tahm Kench come back, and that's one of those where if you can get the combo, you're not worried about what the enemy team is going to pick, really. You're just like, yeah, I'm happy having Senna Tahm Kench, especially with how strong she seems after the last changes to fasting Senna.
Yeah, and then lastly, we've got support. And so the top 3 picks are going to be Alistar at 6 picks, Rel at 4 picks, and then Tahm Kench, Thresh, and Nautilus at 3 picks. I guess that wasn't really top 3, but looks like we got a lot of beefy boys for the supports. Have you liked that it's pretty much always, more or less tanky supports and not so much like Nami or that sort of thing for the support?
I think it's more interesting to watch, definitely. My gut would just be that like these support players, in scrims or whatever, they get like their teams get so used to them playing something that can, force and engage and call it, like I would just imagine if you watch like Afromoose stream or something, right? And he's always like, "Oh, we just go on this," like if he's duo to someone, he's always like ready to go in and he calls for his team to do it and follow him up and everything. So like I think that they get used to having those kind of champs, and so you see the Alistairs, you see the Rels and Leonas, and those are all just the same kind of thing. Like, yeah, they can dictate like when your team's gonna fight and how to punish people. So I think it makes sense like why that's so many people's default. Even though I don't know that I'd be convinced that those are like the strongest champs. I think we'd see more and more Seraphines or Lulus or Karmas if it was just about what's strongest and not what people are used to playing.
Okay, so you think it's more about the go button?
I think so, yeah. I think it's useful for teams to have that, especially as you see like the stuff out of top lane, like Renekton's and Gragas's and not that Gragas can't engage. I guess that's maybe not a good example, but like Renekton and like you get Udyr out of the jungle, and these are guys that like can go in and force things. But I think that having your support have like be the person who's able to like dedicate themselves to that and like get these guys following up is very useful for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, if the most picked jungle picks are Graves, Lillian, and Talia, they can't really get this stuff started.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, so with LCS Week 2, they started playing on patch 11.3, although Viego was not enabled for this weekend. I'm not too sure about next weekend, though. But I do hope we're going to see some Viego for the rest of the spring split, because I want to see if people think that he's really strong or not worth playing because he's a melee champ. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think people. My guess wouldn't be that people would play him. But if I did have to put money on it, I would bet that it's going to be Dardoch who picks him first in the LCS at least.
Oh, true. Yeah, I think I think I heard something like he's played a new champion every game.
Yeah,
is it something like that?
I think so. I think he's only played. I mean, I guess they're 6 games in. I think he played. Yeah, I think he's played 10 different champions in his 10 different games, including lock-in.
That's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah, and they're 4-2.
Pretty cool too. Yeah, they're doing really well. They can't be slept on for this week at least.
Definitely.
And then one more thing I wanted to talk to you about is the forbidden Senna and Tahm Kench combo. How do you, now that it's like we see it a lot of times during the lock-in in the first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this combination, dude?
Man, I don't know. I think I like it better with this attack speed Senna build, but I can't say that it's like my favorite kind of bot lane. I don't know. I like this season. It seems like there's a lot more focus on just like straight 2v2 fighting in the bot. And so when people are picking like Senna or Senna Tahm, you're seeing a lot of like blitzcrank counters and stuff, and there are people like trying to punish it back and forth. And like with farming Tahm Kench, you get like chem tank, and you can actually take fights like he's goated and like yeah we're gonna fucking scrap, Whereas with lethality, Senna being more predominant, you were more just like, oh yeah, we're just here to scale. We're just going to get this champ out of lane. You're not going to kill us. And then Senna's going to layer, her ulti and her Q and an auto or two over, our diving Olaf and shit. And they're going to just wreck face. So to that end, I think I've liked this iteration of Senna Tahm a little bit, but that might just be a meta specific thing.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. I'm thinking that I think it's actually way too good right now. Just independently what Senna does. Yeah. So just what they do like on their own, like Senna, you're right, right now she's good on this patch, just like independently. She has a really good build path, and she has a really decent matchup against Kai'Sa because she gets to outrange her. And then Tahm Kench is really cool that you get to CS and you get to build up your gold and just like really outpace the enemy support and items. And then once you get past level 11 as well, you get to do farther ultis, and that's really good for the impact on the game as well. So I think that the combo is really strong, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more people start banning out Senna a lot more. And even this week, she already saw, 8 bans out of 15 games. So in more than half the games, she gets banned.
Yeah.
And more or less, she does get picked as well. So I'm thinking that something should maybe happen to that combination, especially if in the future Kai'Sa's going to get nerfed or something like that.
Yeah.
But I also wonder, like, so we're in week 2 right now, and then there's only going to be 6 weeks and then playoffs. I feel like this combination is so strong. I don't know if it should be allowed for playoffs, because I do think that it's so strong it could be inflating some of the teams' records, because almost a lot of the teams are playing this right now, such as Dignitas.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We'll see. I don't know. I think that it's one of those at this point after the last couple of years where Senna Tahm is just something that every bot lane has to have in their back pocket. It's like a Zyra Khan, right? Like if you feel like you need Senna Tahm for a comp or whatever, then you better know how to play Senna Tahm.
Right. Okay, now let's get into the standings for week 2. At the end of this weekend, tied at first place, we've got C9 and 100 Thieves, both at 5-1. Then right behind them for third and fourth place, we've got TSM and Dignitas at 4-2, with both of them having a 3-0 week this week. At fifth and sixth, we have EG and TL with an even 3-3 score. And then following them, we've got the rest of IMT, FlyQuest, CLG, and Golden Guardians. What'd you think about this week, man?
Man, this was I don't know. There were a lot of upsets this week, a lot of unexpected results. I feel like it was exciting. I'm kind of glad to see no undefeateds left. Honestly, I felt like last week I was, C9 and 100 Thieves. I would have put it if you told me they were the 2 undefeated teams. I would have been beforehand like that's kind of a weak undefeated pair. I don't know the way they played last week. I wasn't that impressed, but they still pulled out the 3-0. So now that they're both down to 5-1, I think that makes sense. And then TSM and Dig, I feel like are honestly both surprises at 4-2. You said they went 3-0. That's some big weeks for both those teams. And then EG and TL after EG was kind of hyped up after Lock-In, and TL goes and wins the whole thing, and then they both have dropped a few games. TL had kind of the same as TSM's week 1, where squeak out a win against CLG, or maybe they didn't squeak out their win against CLG, but you beat CLG, which doesn't say anything really, and then you go on to lose your other 2 games, and that's a rough weekend.
Yeah, I would say EG and TL both had rough weekends, and then C9 and 100 Thieves, I feel like they deserve to be up top, especially since 100 Thieves only lost is the other 5-1 team. They lost to C9, whereas C9 lost to EG, who is still who I think a playoffs team.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like neither of those two at the top were upset per se by a team outside of the top 6. Whereas TL, they technically lost to TSM, who
at the time was kind of whack. Yeah.
Right. And I think who was the other loss this week? Do you remember?
They also lost to 100 Thieves, so another not bad loss if you think about it. I don't know. You want to talk about TL a little? Because I feel like this week TL looked, I don't know, just out of whack, kind of. Like the TSM game, I don't know, TSM kind of walked over them in mid game. They kind of just got choked out. Obviously, the early game, when you randomly give Azir a quadra kill in bottom lane, you kind of have thrown off the whole balance of things in League of Legends. So going from there, it throws your whole game into whack. I'm not surprised they lost, but they looked like they couldn't do anything in the rest of that game. And 100 Thieves, that game looked like kind of even for a while, and then suddenly TL was just on the back foot and lost again. Like they didn't find any openings. They just took it and dropped the nail. I don't know. It seemed uncharacteristic of them.
Yeah, not to talk too much about it. I think the TL losses. I think for the TSM game, I think TSM's picks in that game were much more well-rounded in terms of like engage opportunities and options, consistent DPS options, and just like overall tankiness for their champions. Because I think that TL, they picked like Graves for their jungle in that game because a lot of the good stuff was banned out. Mm-hmm. So I think feels weird to say this, but yeah, I think they got outdrafted that game. And then as for the 100 Thieves game, I don't think that loss is egregious or anything. I also think that 100 Thieves just played really well this weekend, and so props to them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. It's still week 2. Can't get too up or down on anybody, it seems like, at this point.
For sure. Yeah, it's only week 2. I guess it will matter a bit more what the standings are next week, because that'll be the halfway point after week 3. Mm-hmm. So, but just for the first 2 weeks, some teams are up, some teams are down. I think going 1-2 or 2-1 this week or last week, it's not too much of a big deal. At least you get some things that you see that you can improve on. But it does suck to get more than one loss in a week.
Yeah.
If any.
True.
All right, dude. What do you think about the Friday games? Were there anything there that impressed you?
Let me look back here. Let me think. I think that I don't know if we get into the low hanging fruit that I remember our TSM Golden Guardians preview that pretty much fit the bill. I feel like where it was a sketchy game to say the least, but TSM got it.
Yeah, I don't even think I want to remember the details of that game. It was kind of one of those like, oh, I guess there has to be a winner in this game, so I guess we won
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's all we need to say. That went as we expected. It was somehow a nail biter, and somehow TSM won.
Exactly. And then I was thinking last week we talked about previewing 100 Thieves and FlyQuest. That was not close. So I that's pretty much solidified. Like after their performance this week, I'm pretty solid on 100 Thieves being at minimum a top 3 team at the end of week 6.
Yeah.
FlyQuest, I'm still up in the air about them. I think they can be good. I think I kind of put them in the same boat as Dignitas. I think they can just have up and down weeks, and then we'll see where they end up landing. Although I am a little higher on Dignitas being able to hold their record as opposed to FlyQuest.
Yeah, I think if I probably did just a direct comparison between those two teams, it seems like Dignitas is much more like they have a higher floor than FlyQuest does, I would say. You've got guys like Aframu and Dardoch who've been around for a while, and they kind of I think
Right.
they kind of know what to do more on a macro sense together. They can kind of pull around guys like Saligo and Fake God have had good showings in Academy, so I think they have a bit more of an idea as well of what they're doing. But it seems like FlyQuest is dealing probably with a little bit of issues integrating like Jose Dideo and also getting a couple rookies all together. And they've been doing some wacky stuff, playing like favoring the Seraphine bottom picks with Johnson and stuff too. So I think they're kind of learning how to play a bit more. But I've liked. It seems like they've had a few like good early games or good plays that they've strung together. So that's where I'm still kind of high on them. That they need to work out how to carry that through a whole game. But they've got some glimmers in there.
Okay, that's good to hear. And then I would say the banger game of Friday was going to be EG versus Cloud9, where
Yeah.
I would say EG pulled out the upset win over C9. Did you catch that game?
Dude, I did catch. I'm trying to think. I feel like I remember watching this game, and now I'm like looking back, just trying to skim through it to see what was going on, and it was just kind of a mess. No, I don't know. I was yeah. I definitely would agree though. It was definitely an upset that EG pounded this, but I'm just screenshotted here at like what is this? Fucking, it's like 28 minutes in, and there's 38 kills in the game or 32 kills in the game. Like, what a wild match.
Yeah, there were a lot of kills in that game. And I will say that the winning team here, they did use Senna Tahm Kench. So maybe some dirty tricks were used there, but you know what? EG got the win, C9 got their first loss, and that's up to them if they want to let Senna go through.
Yeah, I mean, Sven and Vulcan are prime Senna Tom Kench abusers. So I think if they can let it go through and not have a counter ready for it, then that's on them. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think they tried to play the Blitzcrank that game, but it must have not gone well.
Yeah, that's a hard matchup. I think. Like in theory, it's what you want, and you can get some good plays, but it's still up to like the Senatom to kind of misplay. Actually, this game I do remember the early game dives where Ignar was kind of just like hard outplaying what the Blitzkrieg wanted to do, like blocking the blitz hook. He wasn't eating his ADC, so you don't get the two for pull. Like he was just out in front of him and making sure that nobody could get on top of him, and they were just free hitting. It was pretty interesting actually. I like that from the bot lane perspective.
Okay, and then for Saturday games, we last week we previewed 100 Thieves versus Cloud9, as well as IMT versus EG. Did any of those games impress you?
Yeah, I mean, I think 100 Thieves and Cloud9 was a pretty good game if I remember correctly. I liked that seemed like it was a decent matchup, of our top tier teams kind of going at each other.
Definitely. I would say that that match was probably my favorite game of this weekend. It seemed really back and forth, and then I think pretty crazy. I think 100 Thieves got Dragon Soul that game, and Cloud9 were still able to win it. So I feel like that game was really fun to watch. Really, really good back and forth. Good
Yeah,
amount of kills. Good fights here and there.
yeah. A lot of high execution champions too. Blabber pulling out the Rek'Sai was. I'm sure that got on your radar for that one.
Yeah, boy. Although, like thinking about it, like I remember watching that game, and it sucks to play Rek'Sai into like champions like Galio and Set. Like, well, just mainly champions in general. It sucks to play against some strong CC champs.
Yeah, you can't really just tunnel at them and show off your big Void Queen prowess.
Right, right. And then to speak about IMT versus EG, I would say that's an upset win for IMT in terms of the standings.
Yeah,
But that's IMT's second win, and it's against what I would think a playoff team. So they have a win against TL and a win against EG.
yeah.
So that's looking really good because those are pretty strong teams. You have any thoughts about that game?
No, I mean I think I'd agree. Like you said, that's a big win for IMT. But I wonder if that's not just them kind of getting the coin flip of EG. Like Insanity had some interesting help handed to him from Jizuke. I felt like that game, and they kind of got to run away with it after some good moves up in the top side. So, I think that's it's still a good win for IMT, but I think it's more of a bad sign for EG that or it's I mean it's kind of what we expected of them almost that they can look really good in some games and really bad in other ones.
For sure. I would say, looking at that, I do want to try myself some Tristana mid now. I'm, I do feel a little inspired by it. I don't know about the teleport, but I think Tristana's in a really good spot right now with Hail of Blades.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think what I would expect, honestly, I think Sneaky's been playing a lot of Trist just in bot lane in general. I think that she'll make a comeback as if Kaisa fades out a little bit, and then the bot lane matchups kind of trend away from some of these hard engaged supports. Like if we start to see more enchanters get picked up, and they go along with like more hyper carry ish champs like Twitches or Jinxes, then that's a good spot for Tristana to come back in the bot lane as well.
Were there any other Saturday games that you wanted to talk about? Because I know I want to talk about some TSM
Yeah, I
versus Team
mean
Liquid.
that's I think we were both saving that one for last, so I'll let you start off with that one.
Okay, I mean, yeah, man, I was not expecting TSM to put up a fight at all. So it's just very pleasantly surprised that they were able to do so well this game. I feel like, just as a TSM fan in general, I feel like mostly everyone did a good job in this game. Huni popped off, Spica popped off,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this was like,
and Power Vivo got a really strong quadra kill pretty early on in the game. So always feels good to be playing a scaling champion and then just be fed right off the bat
of
and
course,
pumped
yeah.
with so much gold. And I feel like I don't want to bag on anybody for like because they played bad,
Hmm.
but I would say that PoE made Jensen his bitch this game.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, dude. This was what I really liked about this game is that after TSM spent the last like week or couple weeks really with if you count lock in too, where they just kind of looked like early game was a mess. No lanes were really popping off. And then the mid game became like they played like these Olaf jungle games and were trying to just stack dragons and they'd get there eventually. But it was like, okay, well we botched early game but managed to get 2 dragons, so let's just play for soul, play for elders, and go for it late. This was like they got the early game quadra on PoE and then just kind of grabbed the game by the balls. Like TL did not have an angle back into this game, it seemed like the entire time. And then it came down like they get the beard and end up in the enemy base and it's like, oh yeah, TL's like, what are they gonna do? Jensen died again or whatever. I forget exactly what happened. And then Core JJ is like, okay guys, well this game's over unless we go all in, so let's just go all in and end it.
Right, yeah. And I think this game for me it really exemplified like the dangers of playing Graves jungle because at that point they TL wasn't really left with a lot of engaged options. It was either maybe pick someone off with Zoe Sleep or Nautilus Hook, which aren't really ideal and when you're in a losing situation, and or just get like start off a really good flank with a cannon
Yeah,
ulti.
just the god Smeb cannon engage.
Right. Which, it could be possible. They're a good team that can set up maybe some good wards and opportunities for that at different points in the game. But, it's just not as easy as TSM had it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would say though, it seemed like to me that TSM did a good job that game of playing fundamentals, not letting TL have those kind of opportunities to look for flanks or like they didn't play with blind spots on the map practically. They did a good job of like let's take a quadrant in the jungle, get wards out, we'll push out a wave, we'll reset if we need to, we'll come back. Like and retake it if they cleared any wards, like before they even try to do Baron. Whereas a lot of their other games where they've been playing from behind, they've had to kind of do these like random Baron sneaks where they're like, oh, we're playing, like they just reset, like we probably have the time to do this, they won't know, and all that kind of stuff. In this game, they got to do it like kind of by the book a little bit more, and that was nice to see.
Yeah, I think so too. I was really happy to see this game because it actually seemed like they were playing like a team as opposed to their previous 4 games.
Right.
So I like to see mid and jungle no, sorry. I like to see jungle and support working closely together. I think they got a mid gank off.
I think my favorite play this game, outside of whatever the hell ended up with a Azir quadrikill, was that one TP to bot lane with PoE into where Hootie got like the 2v2 or the 2v1 turn into the PoE shuffle into another Gnar W like on it, and they got the 2v2 like kill with the teleport. That was nice. I liked that.
Right, that was nasty. It honestly felt like to watch that, I felt embarrassed like as a TL fan.
Yeah.
Like I was like, how did they let that happen?
Right?
They let Gnar ulti them. I don't know. That was a weird moment, but I felt embarrassed watching that. All right, and then last but not least, we had some Sunday games. From last week, we were talking about highlighting TL versus 100 Thieves, as well as GGS versus TLG. Let's get started on the first one, dude. What do you think about the TL versus 100 Thieves game?
Yeah, I think when this game first started, I only watched a little bit of it. Like I was catching it, I was out of the house actually in a very surprising turn of events. But so I was catching bits and pieces, and saw. It seems like every time I would look back, like every 5 minutes or so, and there was just like suddenly there was a whole swing in the kills, and I didn't remember or didn't know like how it happened. But so I don't know. I went back and watched it, and it seemed like it was kind of close. I don't know. We talked about it a little bit. It seemed like it was kind of close for a while, and then 100 Thieves just came out on top in a couple fights, and they carried it through on a good Baron push. It was kind of unexpected almost how quickly they won.
I actually really liked this game. I think that the way that the two teams played around their advantages were really good. For example, they had Alfari on the Quinn, even against the Renekton. I think he played the Quinn really well in terms of, using the Quinn to get an advantage in the top lane. And then trying to move that around the map as well. And then they got Jensen on the rise, who can put some strong split put pressure if they can't quite seem to get control of the dragon area. So they got they got 2 options for some really strong split pushing if they want that.
Yeah.
So I like the compositions of the both teams this game. It just ends up that 100 Thieves got really strong dragon control this game. And so I'm really happy that they were able to take over in that sense. I think I remember in this game, I think Core JJ got a really big Rel ulti that started off a fight really well for them, but then 100 Thieves just turned it right back around.
Yeah, this was a lot of like really interesting and like exciting fights. The ones that did happen, it seemed like they were like really like well played just by kind of all sides. These are the 2 teams that I'd expect that out of honestly in LCS. Like 100 Thieves has been kind of nutty team fighters since it was FBI and Closer carrying games on Golden Guardians. Now they're doing the same thing here, and TL is just all like obviously world class kind of players.
Yeah, so I would say that I really liked this game.
Do you know what? Actually, when you brought up the Quinn and the Rise, it reminded me of that I know that we're a LCS show, but did you happen to catch the G2 versus Rogue game from I think Saturday in LEC?
No, but it's from glancing at the Reddit thread, it seemed like that match was a banger.
That was a banger game, and I think. But what I want to bring up about that is that it seemed very similar, like to how G2's comp was in that game for TL. And they just weren't able to pull it off in the same way because G2 did the same thing where they picked the Quinn. They had they had caps on Echo, but same kind of thing like this AP like split push mage kind of style, and they like that was just so drawn out and wild of a game. Like they were against like super late game skilling on the other side, so it's not the same matchup, but just like how they wanted to play it, that was really interesting. But so for TL, I wonder if that was kind of like they were trying to copycat how G2 played with the Quinn and just weren't able to replicate.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting then. But yeah, overall, I would say I really liked that game out of the 2, and they get that game out of the way, and furthermore, they going on in the future, they'll get to play some weaker teams hopefully and pick up more wins for both of them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how both of those teams round out kind of the first half here.
Okay. Any other Sunday games that you want to talk about?
we said we wanted to look at the GGS and CLG game. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I even watched that game. So
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I see that CLG picked up their first win, and I'm gonna say, way to go, CLG. But that's about all I got.
Exactly. That's actually the same way that I feel.
All right, dude. Anything else you want to cover on this whole weekend before we move on to what we're looking forward to next week?
Yeah, I guess I suppose one last Sunday game that's kind of interesting was EG versus Dignitas. So, Dignitas gets to sneak through with the 3-0, and I do wonder, I guess, that's going to segue us into previewing next week's games, is whether Dignitas is going to prove themselves worthy of their really good week 2, because I believe that they have some really strong matchups for next week. So if you want to get into that, we can.
Yeah, I think just real quick we can look at it. I think having the Senna Tahm on Dignitas side is always valuable, but Dardoch on Kane. Last time I think we saw Kane in the LCS was Spica not transforming on the champion. So
right.
so it's good to see that champ show up. That's one of those that I think is really interesting, especially like just as a champ that you see in solo queue, and you see terrorize games in solo queue. So like you wonder maybe like why it doesn't show up more in competitive, and so to see it have like just the opportunity to is really cool.
Yeah, and actually, now that I think about it, I watched this game today, and this game was pretty entertaining from the Clown Fiesta point of view. So I would say if you want to, if you're trying to get drunk, that game was a good game to have like a drinking game on.
I mean, anytime you've got Jizuke and a champion that can dash in, I think you're bound to have some interesting gameplay.
Yeah, maybe a little emphasis in that word somewhere in there. Okay, yeah, and then one last thing to talk about for LCS Week 2, for the Player of the Week, it ends up being Power of Evil. I think that's okay. I mean, when I think about it, I wasn't impressed with the Friday game. Saturday game, okay, good job. And then the Sunday game, I guess there might not have... I just don't know. I don't know, he played Victor in the Sunday game. I guess he did lane really well against the IMT mid laner.
Yeah. I don't even just looking back at the score, like he didn't even have like an insane scoreline by the end of that game. That was just some I don't know. This feels like one of those where if it was Bjergsen still on the team, I understand it. But come on, man. Like if it's just an average week for PoE, like do we need to give him Player of the Week? Let's maybe I'll allow it.
Yeah, I guess because they got that win over TL in a way that was like it looks like a really strong performance.
Yeah. That's true.
I'm not too crazy about it.
Honestly, I feel like I would have given it, if I had to pick a TSM member, I would have given it to Lost for the TL game. Because like he had a couple of plays that I was like very proud of to see of like going in and like solo killing Jensen in the late game and like salvaging some of the early two all-ins like in the bot. Those were good. And he ended the IMT game 8-0-3. Like come on, those are prime Player of the Week stats.
Right. Yeah, I think they were at one point in the broadcast, they were like showing Power of Evil stats after he had won.
Yeah.
And it shows like all the stats for that game. And then but on the side, it shows all of his like stats in comparison to everyone else. And he's like 7th or 8th place in like a lot of those stats for like CSD and that sort of thing. It's like super funny. So I don't know. I'm not too crazy about Power of Evil being the Player of the Week. I think he played well in those last 2 games.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't have. I was probably more high on maybe a player on like C9 or 100 Thieves, especially because 100 Thieves had two pretty strong opponents this weekend. And then I really liked the way that he was playing Set this weekend as well, especially in the Cloud9 game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think those are both good honorable mentions for that one.
Okay, dude. So let's get right on into LCS Week 3.
Yeah, bring it on.
For me, starting with Friday, I don't think I saw too many interesting matches, but I am looking forward to TSM versus EG.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good one. Both teams, TSM looking to ride this high and EG looking to kind of right their ship a little bit after back-to-back losses.
Wow, dude, that was kind of poetic the way that you phrased that. I really like that.
I'll give you one that's like not poetic here on a Friday game. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna get dragged for it. All our viewers will drag me. CLG is gonna beat Cloud9 the first game of the day.
You think so, dude? That would set a mood for sure.
That's what I'm feeling, dude. That's it's just, I think it's gonna happen. They just won their first game. Come on. If you look just at their
True,
last
dude.
game, CLG, 100% win rate. It's Cloud9,
100%.
100% win rate in just game sixes in LCS spring 2021. So,
Right.
yeah.
And on a side note, I think I did see Broxto's tweet today, something about like there being good news.
Yeah,
So I'm not saying he's going to be here this week for this week's set of games, and honestly, I hope not because he hasn't really played with the team. Although,
dude, I bet
however many reviews they might include him in.
I bet if he does show up, he'll just like insta-lock Lee Sin, like their blue side, he'll pick it first. C9's gonna ban Udyr and Lilia, and he's gonna be like, dude, I haven't even scrimmed on these patches. Like, what the fuck who is Udyr? I've never seen that champ. And he's gonna insta-lock Lee Sin and then just like go 10-0.
Yeah, I could see that actually. But yeah, hopefully they get him in after week 3. So for weeks 4, 5, 6, that would be really cool if they can get their full intended roster in.
Yeah,
I would be excited for that.
yeah.
Rest in peace, Paul Belter.
Rest in peace, Boba. This is what was intended. RJS CLG.
Okay, you ready to move on to Saturday?
Yeah, let's check them out.
Okay, and then for Saturday, there's actually a couple big ticket games that I'm interested in. First off, I was seeing C9 versus Dignitas. Again, I'm just thinking that this is Dignitas' chance to see if they can play with the big boys.
Yeah.
With C9 being a big boy, it could be really one-sided, or maybe Cloud9 would just give up Senna, Tahm, Kench, and it'll be a lot closer than it really should be. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, we'll see. I'm trying to think if think back to any like Blabber Dardoch matchups, like if Dardoch has ever like gotten the better of him or anything like that, because that'd be interesting just as in isolation a jungle matchup. Um, and then Fake God Fudge, that's kind of a 50-50, I think, honestly. Uh, Mid lane, you've got Soligo versus Perks, which is, I mean, I don't know. I think that Perks gets the edge, but we just saw, 100 Thieves pull out a dub against them. So, or wait, it was the other way around. Never mind. So yeah, I don't know. That's probably Perks favored. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Dignitas has hopes. They're riding a high for sure. So I think it'll be a good game. Maybe we get the Viego in that game.
I think so too. And then the next game I was looking at is going to be TSM versus 100 Thieves. Really the same kind of vibe here. We just got the third first place team challenging one of the first second place teams.
True, that's
So
actually.
I'm not sure how close this game is going to be. Actually, I really do want to give the heads up to 100 Thieves here, but at the same time, these teams are pretty close in the standings. It's really just one game away, and this is going to show like, is 100 Thieves going to grow their lead in the standings, or can TSM catch up as a third, fourth place team? So we'll see. And then just the way that TSM played in the last 2 games, and even the way that 100 Thieves played in their last 2 games as well from this past weekend, I think they both looked really great. So I'm excited to see this matchup this weekend.
Yeah, both these teams, the TL killers, just crushing their spirit, getting to face off. So I'm excited.
That's true. That's true. The TL killers. Did you want to say anything more about that match?
No, I think we've covered that. Or yeah, I think I'm with you. There's not too much to say. I'm just that what I'm just looking forward to. I won't make any bold predictions.
Okay, and then the third game I was looking at for Saturday is going to be TL versus EG. Currently, they're both at 3-3, so I want to see is one team going to overtake the other during this weekend. So I was thinking that TL wasn't going to drop a lot of random games. It seems like they kind of are. I mean, it's only 3 games out of 18 so far.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I still want to give TL the edge here.
It's still what did they end up in summer last season? I feel like this is almost as many games as I would expect to drop in. Yeah, they were 15-3 in summer of last regular season last month. So if you're slotting in that's their budget of losses, then here we are already at the max.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a lot of hope for that TL roster, so I wouldn't be too down on them. I mean, they did have, it could be in the end that you look back on this week, and I suppose week 2 was kind of a tough week for games for them.
Yeah.
Because maybe TSM really will turn out to be a decent team, and they just had to work it out a little bit, and then so TL has to work it out a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting game after we see EG drop a couple kind of head scratcher games this past week. This will be their chance to prove if they're kind of just playing up to their opponents or not. Because I could see that as a team as well, that they're just really only trying to play against who they like respect, and then when they play against these immortals teams, then they're like, what's this guy gonna do? Insanity, Revenge, Omega Lol. Like these are solo queue players.
Yeah, but that's when it gets turned on you,
It's
dude.
true. That's when Jizuke
When you
turns on
least
his solo
expect
queue
it.
brain and they just start hinting.
Right. Okay, and then finally to end it out with the Sunday games, we got Dignitas versus TSM for a match I'm looking forward to. Right now, they're both third and fourth place, so I think by the end of this matchup, we'll see if any of those teams are still in the top four.
Yeah, that's true. This will be definitely two teams I think that are overperforming based on their lock-in results. So getting them head to head is to see.
Yeah, I think so too. Another match I'm more interested in the result, not so much watching the game, is going to be Immortals versus FlyQuest. They're both outside the top 6 right now, but a matchup like this with teams pretty similar in skill, I want to see what either side can do with the rookies that they have.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is probably actually a good stylistic matchup kind of too. Like I think that in top lane you'll see Revenge and Licorice both are guys who seem like they're like prepped to play like counter pick matchups and really like kind of go all in on the 1v1. So I'd be interested to see what they pull out.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to see that game. Well, not really see it. I just want to know who wins.
Yeah.
And then the last game that I'm looking forward to for week 3 of LCS is going to be TL versus Cloud9. I think that, even though TL is technically a sixth place team, I still think they're up there. So this is going to be their first chance with C9 after the lock-in tournament, who they beat in a best of 5. Although that was on a different patch. But yeah, I'm looking really forward to this match, and I'm predicting it's probably going to be a banger as well.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, I think if lock-in finals showed us anything, then that these two teams play some really high octane and high level League of Legends when they both want to. So yeah, I hope we get to see some reads of what we got in lock-in.
Hell yeah, dude. Sounds good. Okay, I think we're out of topics to talk about.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I don't think we have anything else. Did you see at all what happened with the? I forgot about this until now. Did you see in the LEC they had a whole like remake scare like scenario thing?
Oh right, yeah, we could talk about it a little bit. So I think that was a Fnatic game, right? Where
Yeah,
I don't know too much about it, but I believe Fnatic was like pretty posed to win game 1, and then
yeah,
something
it's
happened
like
with Samira ulti and her Guardian Angel, where like her GA went off, but her ulti was still ticking, and so they tried to pause and they tried to chrono break the game, but it failed. So the other team was offered a remake, and they took it, and it's like 11 p.m. in Europe when they played the remade game or something like that. That's pretty crazy.
yeah, it was like game 4 of the day. It's Fnatic versus like XL, which is like not like high tier team, right? And it's game 4 of the day, and they go in and have to like this bug happens, and they have to play a full remake. Even though Fnatic like had Ocean Soul and had yeah, they like have Ocean Soul. They're taking Baron. They like get in a scrap like after having like won a team fight. They get in a scrap with like some of the remaining members, and then this bug happens, and they go into like this 30 or 45 minute pause, and then eventually they get to the point where they're like, yeah, we can't chrono break the game. We're gonna do a remake, and then they say, but like because it's taken so long, whatever, they're just like, we're gonna do the remake at the end of the day because the next game was like the G2 Rogue game that everybody was like hyped to watch, and it was like their match of the week, and so they were like, let's just go straight to this. We'll give you guys time to like rest or whatever after this, 90 minute like just sitting around, like with game time and pause time included. It's kind of nuts because I think that like they didn't show that on broadcast because it was like they were kind of delayed and had already done the pause. But so you didn't get to see the bug, but it sounded like it was at a point where it's like already like super Fnatic favored. Like there's no way they would drop this game.
Yeah, it's pretty lame, like of course, but the rules are the rules. A bug happened, they couldn't fix it, so they get the remake.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I'm more bothered that it sucks that like so much time passed and then they're playing a game at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the weird part. Do they have to have the same picks because it's a remake technically? Or how does that work?
I think no, I think with the remake they actually redrafted, like because and I forget like the reasoning why, but I'm pretty sure they actually redrafted. And it was funny. I think Upset on Twitter like made a joke about it afterwards because he got Samira in the game where they remade and there was a bug, and then he got Samira in the So he got Samira in the first game, and then he was the one who got bugged on it, and then they got Samira again in the redrafted game. So he was just kind of like, okay, yeah, you guys are really good at the game.
Yeah. So Fnatic ends up winning in the end, right?
Yeah, they
Both
still
games?
did. They still. I mean, they would have won the first game. They still beat them in the second game. It was not a. It shouldn't have been a close matchup. You know.
That's a pretty interesting story from this weekend as well.
Yeah, it's kind of the. I think I saw somebody on Twitter say this is, we haven't hit true esports until, or esports aren't real sports until you get to blame losses on the refs. So it was
Oh, true, dude.
a good little dig.
That's
at
pretty
that
funny,
one.
actually.
This was our chance to blame the refs.
Okay, and that's going to be it for episode 3 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast on the service that you are listening to us on if you aren't already on. And we'd also appreciate if you give us a rating or hit the like button to show some support, since we're a pretty new podcast. Right now you can find us on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice such as iTunes and Spotify, and maybe a couple more because of the way that iTunes distributes their podcast platform as well. We hope to see you all next week for another episode of On the Hunt.
Thanks everyone.